Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Christine Javier, and I was also a Cal alumnus, and I graduated in 2011. And my major was integrative biology, but I switched my career to design. So I'm here to talk to you about how to link creativity and design to kind of jumpstart your career. How many of you are interested in becoming a designer? Show of hands. And of those people, are you majoring in something design related? If it's yes, raise your hand. Okay, so you can still become a designer. You don't necessarily need to major in design or have that background. But first of all, what is creativity? So creativity is the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, and the like, and create new, meaningful forms, methods, and interpretations. Creativity is something that doesn't necessarily exist in one person or the other because one person's a creative and one person isn't a creative. It's actually a noun, so it's a way of thinking. Design is to plan and fashion with an aesthetic sense. So if you're a designer, you're a planner essentially, and in order to link the two, it's about seeing that when you're a designer, you're using your creative mindset and applying it. So creativity is actually a habit. It's a way of thinking so that you can choose to decide, and it's a set of principles and attitudes that characterize a lifestyle where you're signifying that you have this willingness to go your own way. It's something that needs to be nurtured, and it can't be something that you just think exists in one spurt at a time. So it occurs every day in ordinary life, and it's not something that happens in extraordinary times. And Robert Sternberg actually has this theory that there's 4 types of creativity, and the nature of it ranges from something like big C to little c. And big C is someone who is like Darwin, or maybe it's Beethoven, and these are the people who are creative geniuses. And the little c is someone who, perhaps makes a dinner because they, picked all the ingredients and made something really delicious for themselves. So that now that I've kind of linked creativity and design, for you to start your career, you need to be able to have 4 things. You have to know your software, have a portfolio, find and use your resources or network, and be willing to take risks. So for software, about 63% of people are using Sketch these days, and it's one of the best programs to iterate on because it's very quick. It's kind of like Keynote, but easier. 29% use Photoshop, 5% use Figma, and 3% use Adobe XD. So the younger generation are using Sketch. I started out using Photoshop, and I've used that for maybe 12 years, so I'm part of the older generation. And then also Figma is kind of new, and it's pretty much like Sketch, but it's online basically instead of downloading software. So have a portfolio. If you're starting out, you can't necessarily afford Squarespace right away because it's expensive. So start out with Behance or Cargo Collective if you're on a budget, and then you eventually work your way up to Squarespace, and there's other ones like Semplus, Informat, and Dribble if you get the invite. So you have to showcase meaningful work, and you're not necessarily defined by what you did in that project, but what that work means to you. So you want to highlight projects that are about something you care about, or projects that really mean something to you. And you have to strive for authenticity. So find and use your resources and network. Patricia actually was part of Tradecraft, so if you're unfamiliar with design accelerators, there's programs like Designer Fund, Whitespace, Tradecraft, or General Assembly, and they have a great community of designers so that you can network and be able to have other events that they showcase. Subscribe to emails and read blogs. This is a personal favorite of mine. I subscribe to Envision, UX Weekly, and UX Pin. There's also some more, like Web Designer Depot. There's a lot of resources, but do the reading, it helps a lot. Go to talks and meet people, email people for coffee, but most importantly, you have to do the work. You can't just network all the time without actually having something to show.